Hey, thank you for joining us on this video today. I'm Jeff Huber. I am the Regional Director for the Inland Northwest / Montana / North Wyoming. We don't know what to call it yet, but today it's actually formed October 1st. And first item of business is really to answer some questions for our staff that we had been asking in understanding how Wyoming Connect and how we're going to keep track of names and reporting. There was a lot of questions in our region that came up when we started introducing all that's coming into play with our new technology and a new way of we really just keep track and share names. So we thought to answer some of those questions, there's only so many times you can say, I don't know, I'll find out. But let's bring in some of the people who in the mission of Young Life are helping lead the way for just better technology, better keeping track. And so I want to introduce our guests today, Jonathan, Chad, and Alfred, or Al as we call him. But let's start with you, Jonathan. Introduce yourself, who you are, how you're connected with Young Life. Then we'll go on to Chad.
Okay, Jonathan Schultz, Director of Alumni and Friends for the mission, and also do a lot of product leadership on behalf of the development department. And I have been with Young Life for, I guess, going about 30 years. And I actually was an area director there in the Northwest for almost 20 years.
Okay, Chad Watson, and I am the Wyoming Connect Training Director. I live in Salem, Oregon. I have some affinity for you guys up there because I have a son who attends Whitworth University. So, been an area director, been a coaching coordinator, served in a lot of different roles. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm Al Jackson, and I'm at the Service Center right now, but 30 years volunteer leader, volunteer committee chair, on to staff eventually, and regional director in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, 3 states. Not as big territory as you, though, Jeff. That's still takes the cake. And currently, I'm here at the Service Center because Steve Thompson, a few years ago, knew this project was coming up. And he said, boy, I need somebody who can understand the field, but also be the voice of the field. So that's my role here, is to amplify the voice of the field into this project. So excited to try answering some of these questions with you.
Thank you so much, you three. So for our area directors and our staff and admins, some of the questions that have come up were some related to CMI and just keeping track of how many clubs that we have that are combined between schools. And when we have a club that has, say, 2 high schools, do we enter in for club how many from each school, or can we just say in a ministry?
Can we jump in on that one real quick?
Yeah, please do.
But we've heard loud and clear about this and realized that when we got the instructions to roll out this CMI, or core ministry counts process, we really didn't have time to dig into a lot. So we just basically repeated what was in GPS and brought it over to Wyoming Connect. And we are talking right now a lot with sort of the executive sponsors, the group SVPs, other SVPs, about changing it so that we can think about best way that a area functions. And we do understand that there's sort of 2 models out there. There's one where you have a school model where you do have specific leadership teams assigned to a school. You know all the kids that are coming in, maybe a 1-to-1 ratio, club, school, and that makes a lot of sense. But a lot of people are also in a community model where they do have one leadership team deployed to multiple schools doing multiple things. And so we're trying to figure out right now how to facilitate that. So our goal is before second semester starts to have some of that solution and give you some more options based on how you do ministry. So that's where we're headed.
Thank you for that.
And I would just add that its ministry name right now is the key terminology to look for in your mission unit that existed in GPS and now is in the related tab in Wyoming Connect. So you'll see the list of ministries, and we're reporting kids by the ministry. So you could have multiple ministries coming to a club, and you're going to report 10 kids from that ministry, 20 from that one, 30 from that one. And just to reiterate what Al said, sometimes that aligns with school names, sometimes that's different. But the good news is if you need help on that, our team is willing to walk you through that. So your field support reps.
Thank you so much. That's great. Okay, thank you so much. The next question that we have is that came up with among our staff is really help us understand what happens with the names once they're inputted into WYO Connect when they graduate. We're just a little confusion on that. How will those names be able to move on to the next level, and will they? Do we choose whose names move on? And how will the baton be passed from when they graduate high school? Say if they only went to a couple clubs, and then they're not really involved anymore after sophomores, or if they're really involved, how does it happen?
I can go ahead and take this one. I would begin by saying that the heart is to stay connected to and care for and serve graduates, or I think those that have completed high school. Some graduation might be a term that works for some and doesn't for others, but our heart is really, as kids are transitioning from that high school experience, whatever that is, to whatever is next, we would love to make it possible that we can stay connected to them. So all of those students that are entered into WYO Connect, for instance, this year, they had a high school graduation date of 2019. In August, we ran a process where those kids were moved to adult records, and at the same time, their ministry affiliation, I believe that's the right terminology, was made former instead of current with the ministry they were involved in with high school. And they were also affiliated to the Alumni and Friends Mission Unit. Now, why would we do that? Because we do want to have a long-term connection to the mission if possible, but we also want to protect their ability to opt out of that if they so choose. And so what will we do with that information? For those that have information on where they're going to college, for example, if we have Young Life College or a staff representative around that university or college, we can forward information to those that are there on behalf of Young Life, of the incoming freshmen to their schools or to their college town area. That way somebody who's representing Young Life, who loves the Lord, can greet them and let them know of the opportunities that are there for them if they wish to get involved. If they don't, the ball's always in their court where they can say no. And then as far as communications, what are they going to get from our office? They're going to get the Connections newsletter on a monthly basis. They might every now and then get kind of a one-off email, oftentimes telling them about opportunities for summer staff or work weeks or other things to stay engaged with the mission. And if they want to opt out of any of that, they can. So they're not stuck in a situation. And as far as those who maybe attended club once or twice, now obviously an area director or a volunteer through an area director at this point, we are working on how would that look to opt a person out or not include them or whatever. Right now it might be based on graduation date, but I don't see a lot of harm in a student that was involved once or twice getting an invitation to something or getting a Connections newsletter that they can opt out of. All I could really see is a positive potential that they might learn about an opportunity to go and engage in a new situation, or at the very worst, they say, I'm not interested, and they say, I don't want in. And I don't know that that's misrepresenting the local staff or the area, and we certainly are not using that information to solicit funds or anything like that. So really the heart of it is how can we keep an ongoing connection with the mission of Young Life and connect people with local people wherever those kids might be headed. That could be college, the military, or a new town for a new job.
Maybe I would add just a couple of things around. I know there's a trust issue here that we've recognized since day one of WYO Connect that, what are we doing bringing all the names into one database, and how does that affect trust between, the service center, the mission as a whole, and local area staff. And we talked a lot about this protection of the sacred relationship between a leader and a kid in their local area. So I think the good news is that, and I know this is one of those trust us type situations, and you may not trust us always, but I do trust the heart of some of our senior leadership who are so engaged in this, the Jamie Hansons, the Eric Schofields, people who have been involved in leadership, our new GSVPs, Wiley and Chad Edwards, they get this a lot. So that's one thing to know, is just have confidence in that area. We do have protections built around visibility of people seeing contact names and information in the application. So if I could see a situation where 10, 15, 20 years from now, that's the way I look at the mission, is that somebody's a parent in a community and we can reconnect to what their roots were in Young Life when they start having kids, or they've somehow got in front of a committee and are hearing about Young Life and say, hey, I remember that and I want to be involved. To be able to go back and say, wow, this person was involved back in Spokane, Washington, 20 years ago. That's the way we see it, as not something that we leverage into unless there's a real reason why this person is in an area, has a request, a kid is moving on to college, and trying to figure out how to connect those people into their new community.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that having a lot of kids that I've led in the past graduating and those names being passed along to colleges, and it's been manually that we've done it in the past, whether through a link or an Excel sheet, but this really helps to increase the efficiency of that. So I'm thankful that kids that I've led get to do that, and I hope that we all can see the benefit of it. So thank you. Thank you for sharing on that. I wanted to ask another question, and this question is a little bit related to Camp Trip Manager. And as we're gravitating toward Wild Connect as our main source of management of names and people, that we wonder, will Camp Trip Manager, which is coming to an end, I believe toward the end of this year, how will those names make it into Wild Connect, or we have to do all that ourselves manually one at a time?
Yeah, I think Wild Connect Camp is our official name of our new kind of tool set and platforms and ability to solve the pain point, right, of that year-round process of recruiting kids, raising money for kids, and getting them to go to camp, right, following up that whole thing. So Wild Connect Camp will roll out sometime later in November at this point, and so it will start with that as an optional opportunity to use that. We're hopeful that Wild Connect Camp is so good that you're just going to go, that's what we want to use.
We do know that the old Camp Trip Manager and that system will be ending by May 2020. And that's really because of the revenue processing system that it's attached to has become unstable. And so we're finding lots of errors if people are using that for products. So if you have trips or things, that you're doing this school year, through the end of May, it'll still work for those, but we're going to be switching over to something else by the time we get to summer 2020.
So it would make sense for areas to switch over sooner, because when they get to their final payments, last payments, late signups, they're not going to be able to use Camp Trip Manager. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, and I think the benefit, like if we just advertise real quick, we would say the online registration and payment ability to create that camp webpage per each trip and a template built for you for that, to just put that right up, starting later this fall, and to start to have parents and kids and leaders have that sign up and the processing of money and the flow of information and right there. That's going to be a strong benefit that's probably going to hopefully go, hey, I want to use that.
And I know a lot of our areas are already using the field events, for fundraising events, banquets, and other fundraising activities you might be running that you're asking the service center about. The new Camp Trip Manager is built on the exact same platform. So as soon as you get used to once and the way it builds its own websites and all those types of things, it is really slick. It was field tested by a number of people that we both brought into the service center to test it out, and then it was beta tested for a while, and now there's lots and lots of people using it. So it is the same platform. So
yeah.
Old lists of old names is a great question, not only in this, right, but several other places. So Al, you can probably help me on how far back that we have anytime somebody either made a donation or a payment. How far back does that go that's exists in Wild Connect at this point?
Yeah, that's more than 20 years that's
Okay.
been imported from the old system.
Right. So any adult that either made a donation or made a payment for any sort of Young Life event, camp, golf tournament, whatever it might be, we're going to see that information from 20 years ago. So if you have a group of people that are interested in the 30 years ago camp trip, we're going to have to do something really special for them, right? We're going to have to dig back into the, not your archives, not my archives, but archives. I did program a couple times, you probably could tell. So that's what we have for that. Anybody that would fit outside of that demographic from the last 20 years, we've just kicked off what's called a new service. It's called Bulk Contact Importer. It's predominantly kid focused. We could talk about certain situations where you might use another group of people related to something camp, but the Bulk Contact Importer is a templated spreadsheet to allow you as an area user to copy and paste from whatever list, identify that group of people. You're going to put it in there into the Bulk Contact Importer template. You're going to send it off, and then our Wild Connect team is going to, on the backside, upload that, what we like to sometimes call auto-magically, into your local, view of what you see in Wild Connect. And it'll be tagged with that specific group of people. So if you said, hey, Malibu 2015, right, that summer, and you wanted all those kids in there, that would be the one way you could put them in. Al, what did I miss in there?
Yeah, no, that's a good summary. So the good news is that from pretty much any list you can export, that we can get it into an electronic form. We can import it, so that's not limited to stuff that you have in the old Assist system that you could get out, but also if you have Google Docs or anything like that that you want to try getting in. And I know, like, just within the first week here or two, they've already imported 5,000 names that areas have sent in, so they're busy at it, working at it. We got a team dedicated for that.
Thank you for answering that. That's good. And that Bulk Contact Importer, when we shared that with our staff a couple of weeks ago, Garrett Gress, who has been an early adopter and a beta tester, when he shared that Bulk Contact Importer, there was oohs and ahs across the whole room. Like, wow, I thought I had to put these in one at a time. This is a game changer. So thank you for investing in that technology. Okay, third question. This is in relation to just the people that we have as donors in the area. And some of them are confused. Maybe they're elderly, or they've never given to Young Life before, and they're writing a generous check, and they don't know who they're writing a check to. There's multiple appeals that come throughout the year. How do we better prepare our less knowledgeable donors to pick their preferences? How can we help that? Because that is definitely an insecurity of some of our area directors who just feel a sense of close relationship and understanding that not everyone's going to get. When the multi-ethnic, hard to fund camp appeal comes out, they think they're writing a check to their area rather than the mission-wide. But what would you say that we have for that?
Jonathan, let me give one quick answer at the beginning, and then you can go into the MyYL preference center a little bit of how that's working. But the one thing to know, that the one advantage of having everything in one database for us now is that when we say something about a person, we can make sure that's being applied throughout the system, that there's not a separate system, that there's not a separate list anymore anywhere that, oh, maybe the development department has one list, or communications who are sending out those appeals have another list. It's all consolidated so that we're all reading from the same information all the time. That's one thing. The second thing is to know that, do remember, I'm just going to comment that as a regional director and an area director, I had to learn a little bit about how there are the 3 appeals like that, urban campership and the Bible campaign, that does come out annually. And so people can opt out of getting anything, but there is a stewardship issue there of us understanding some of those mission-wide campaigns. But having said that, the local area does take precedent in understanding and knowing what's best for that specific person. So even if they don't enter it like electronically, I know, Jeff, you mentioned like the check they send in or brought into the office. Those are the checks I remember all the time because those are the people you're closest to. Know that the calls into the income processing and into our service center areas, they will treat those people really well and make sure that information gets conveyed. So whether you call as a staff person and say, hey, here's a person who we need to take care of, can you make sure this is checked correctly, and, you know, A, B, and C, we know that will then transmit all the way into the system and through for everybody. Or if that person does call in, if you give them the phone number and say, call, because that's what I'm hearing is that there's still a significant population that won't navigate the electronic means. And so how we serve people in their phone calls or their emails is critical. And so know that we're still working on making sure that all gets consolidated and together, but that's the idea behind the one database.
Thanks, Al. Jonathan, you got more on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I would reiterate that, you know, the fact that we're on one database of record is huge. Any preference centers or subscription centers are going to feed into that database of record and keep us honest, and it's going to be very clear. Right now, there are two projects that I'm aware of that one I'm responsible for. The MyYL product is the replacement for our online giving site, as well as combining that with a new alumni and donors community, which will kind of be seamless together. And in the context of that, we have a preference center in which people, you know, on that platform will not only be able to give, but they'll be able to build a profile and communicate their history with the mission and their interest and schools they've attended, and even share their story and even find other alumni and friends if they choose to you know, enable a profile and kind of go that direction. In the midst of that, in that preference center, they'll be able to choose how they receive communications. It's somewhat like for like on our current giving site, but they'll also be able to opt in or opt out of other larger communications like alumni and friends newsletters or former staff communications or maybe relationships magazine. Now the other one I can't really speak a lot about because it's in process, but it would be through our enterprise or our mission-wide emails. And at the bottom of those emails, there would be a preference center that people could go into. And what they're working towards there is for the individual to have even more control. So it would actually reveal to them, based on any of the mission units they're affiliated with, not just the mission-wide appeals and different communications that they could opt in or opt out of, but actually dial it in even tighter to different areas and different regions and different divisions. So they would be able to control what they're receiving from whom and know exactly what that means. So we are really trying to dial it in a user-friendly way. Again, I can't really speak too much to a product that I'm not as involved in, but know that these are questions that are being wrestled with, and this is functionality that's being developed as we speak.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I know that was something that they really just wanted to know what they could do. And there's a special sensitivity toward certain relationships they have with givers, partners in ministry, that our areas know who those people are, that they might have to help them with it or suggest to them. But I think for the most part, I think a lot of the relationships we have really are, they're interested in what's happening mission-wide. They want to know who Newt Crenshaw is and what some of the stories are. So I think Young Life does a great job of that. This last question is related to that. And it's just, what is Young Life's overall philosophy of those who donate, who support, and whose relationship is it? How is that seen by Young Life? And I have about 4% battery life left on this question. As much as you guys can keep this one tight, that we can finish without losing me.
I'll give a little beginning, and Jonathan, Chad, if you want to add in. We did work hard to build sort of firewalls around people's information and data so that it was, you know, who it's intended to see it is the people who are, you know, most connected to those people. And if you have permission to look mission-wide, there are very few. There are even vice presidents in the organization who aren't given mission-wide visibility into donations. So Newt has been very careful about saying only certain people can see information, and carefully regulated. And then obviously a lot of donors give to multiple mission units. And so that was a big part of it. It was a real stretch for our vendor sales force in figuring out how to make that happen, because that's not a normal business practice. But that was something that we invested in to make it possible, so that we had those firewalls up and people would not see necessarily each other's gifts and giving.
I'll catch the momentum and just roll it from that last question and this one too. Generous people give. We typically are not the first person that comes up to somebody and gets them to give for the first time. They give because they already have a heart and a theology and a life of giving. So when we include and give people the opportunity, they've already been giving probably. We're going to be somebody that helps increase that capacity. And when they start to give to our friends and to within our, to other like-minded organizations or other areas or other staff, that is a good thing. In fact, that's proof that the kingdom of God is coming on earth as it is in heaven. And we have a very generous staff with each other to the tune of about $6 million a year. So the opportunity to continue to present people with opportunities is something, yes, we need to work on together and be open and honest about it, not show up Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to do asks, but work as we're one big team on that.
This is great. If there's anything else you guys want to add, speak now or forever hold your peace, but this has been really helpful. I'm thankful that we can share this with our staff and hear from you three that really represent the mission well and are advocates for us. I know, Jonathan, you've been a great mentor to me since I was a brand new area director and I didn't know which way was up and down. And you're still continuing to be a great support to me, not just as a nearby area director, but serving the whole mission in the service center. And Al and Chad, thank you as well. Staff, if you have continued questions, please send it our way and we'll share it with these three and any others. And Chad has volunteered to be of assistance on Friday, October 11th. He'll be in Spokane visiting Whitworth for Parents Weekend. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And yeah, I'm excited to see how we can be more streamlined in our communications, keeping track, and just seeing where this takes us to have a much more simple, focused way of administrating Young Life in our areas. So thank you all.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, team.
All right. All right. Blessings.